The email arrived at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning while I was tying a fly fishing line to my rod. My name's Brian Sullivan. I'm 50 years old, and that email was about to end 18 years of my life in 47 words. I didn't open it right away. Something about the subject line, "Important update regarding your role," made my gut clench. I was standing on the deck of a rented cabin in Colorado, surrounded by pine trees and morning mist, finally taking the first real vacation I'd had since joining Viarc Systems 18 years ago. The coffee in my thermos was still hot. The bourbon I'd added to it was even better. When I did open it, the words hit like a sucker punch. "Your role has been eliminated effective immediately. Severance package has been reallocated. Enjoy the rest of your vacation." I didn't throw the phone, didn't scream, didn't do anything dramatic. I just took a photo of the email, forwarded it to my lawyer with 2 words, "It's active," and went back to my fishing line. You're probably wondering why I was so calm. Let me back up 6 months. I'm a senior infrastructure engineer at Viarc Systems, or I was. Spent 18 years there building their entire back-end architecture. The kind of work nobody notices until it breaks, and then suddenly everyone's screaming. I'd pulled 72-hour weeks for the last 8 months trying to salvage Project Titan, this legacy system they wanted to sunset but couldn't because 3 major clients depended on it. I saved them $3.1 million in annual revenue, not that anyone cared to mention it. 3 times I got passed over for promotions. 3 times they told me I wasn't leadership material, which is corporate code for "you're too old and we want someone cheaper." I watched kids fresh out of college get hired at $145K while I was stuck at $220K after almost 2 decades. Sounds good until you realize market rate for my experience was closer to $280K, but I kept my head down, did the work because I had a 16-year-old son, Andrew, who'd just gotten accepted to MIT, and MIT costs $85K a year. 6 months ago, the CEO, Patricia Morgan, called me into her office. Patricia's one of those Harvard MBA types who talks about synergy and disruptive innovation while running the company into the ground. She's 45, ambitious as hell, and has a 23-year-old daughter named Sienna, who somehow became Chief Innovation Officer despite having 0 tech background. Patricia smiled at me like we were old friends. "Brian, I need you on Project Titan. You're our most experienced engineer. You're irreplaceable. Irreplaceable." That word stuck in my throat. You don't tell someone they're irreplaceable after skipping them for 3 promotions. You say that when you're setting them up to fail. But I said yes, because that's what you do when you're 50 and you've got a kid heading to college and a mortgage that won't pay itself. Except I wasn't stupid about it. 3 months before that meeting, I'd started teaching myself employment law. Every night after Andrew went to bed, I'd sit at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and read case files until 2 a.m. Bought $300 worth of textbooks off Amazon. My ex-wife thought I was having a midlife crisis. Maybe I was, but it was the productive kind. I also started going to this veteran networking group on Thursday nights. That's where I met Jack Brennan. He's 58, ex-Navy JAG officer, been practicing employment law for 25 years. When I told him about Viarc, the skipped promotions, the way they were circling me, he said something I'll never forget. "Brian, they're going to fire you. Question is, are you going to let them do it on their terms or yours?" So when Patricia offered me Project Titan, I knew exactly what I was doing. "I'll do it," I told her, "but I want updated contract terms." She waved it off. The CFO, Linda Reeves, was there too, ex-McKinsey consultant who treated humans like cells in a spreadsheet. Linda barely looked up from her phone. Standard revision. Just sign here, here, and here. What they didn't know is Jack and I had spent the previous month crafting a clause so perfect, so legally airtight, it could survive any challenge. We buried it on page 47 of the contract revision, right in the middle of the termination conditions section. Clause 18.7c. In the event of termination during approved and active PTO without minimum 3 documented performance warnings, employee shall receive liquidated damages calculated as 82% of total gross compensation earned during tenure, payable within 10 business days. Such termination shall trigger mandatory SOX compliance audit of executive appointments made within 24 months prior. The math was simple. 220K salary times 18 years times 82% equals 3.25 years. And that audit requirement, that was aimed straight at Sienna Morgan. Jack's forensic accountant buddy had tipped us off she was running fake vendor accounts. Patricia signed without reading it. Linda signed without reading it. HR rubber stamped it. I watched them sign page 47 like they were autographing a napkin. Walking back to my desk that day, I passed Tyler Henderson's cube. Tyler's 26, been there 18 months, just got promoted to senior engineer. I'd been there 17 years and was still mid-level. The trap was set. I just had to wait for them to step in it. The next 3 months were hell. Project Titan was everything they said it was, a disaster wrapped in legacy code that should have been retired a decade ago. But I fixed it. Pulled all-nighters, missed Andrew's robotics competitions, skipped dinners, lived on coffee and spite. The system had 47 critical bugs when I started. By the time I was done, it was running smoother than anything else in the company. I remember one specific night around 2 a.m., Andrew came downstairs for water, found me at the kitchen table surrounded by printouts and energy drink cans. "Dad, you okay?" "Yeah, just work stuff." He sat down across from me. "Smart kid, knows when something's wrong. You've been doing this every night for weeks. They're really working you." "Hard, huh?" "It's temporary. Got a big project wrapping up soon." "Is it about money?" "Because if MIT's too expensive..." "Andrew." I looked at him, really looked at him. He had his mother's eyes and my stubborn streak. "Don't worry about MIT. I've got a plan. Trust me." "What kind of plan?" "You'll see. Just focus on your grades and your robotics team. Let me handle the rest." He nodded, went back to bed. I sat there staring at the contract revision on my screen, clause 18.7c glowing in the dim light. Every late night, every missed dinner, every birthday party I couldn't attend. It was all building towards something. They thought they were using me. They had no idea I was 3 moves ahead. 2 weeks before my vacation, I met Jack at our usual spot, a veteran bar in the industrial district. We sat in a back booth, the kind where nobody bothers you. "You sure you want to do this?" Jack asked, nursing a beer. "Once you request that vacation, they'll probably make their move. I'm counting on it." "And you're okay with that? With them actually pulling the trigger?" I thought about it. 18 years of loyalty. 18 years of building systems, solving problems, making them money. And in return? 3 past promotions, a salary 60K below market rate, and a termination email timed for maximum cruelty. "Yeah," I said. "I'm okay with it." Jack slid a business card across the table. "The moment you get that email, forward it to me. Don't respond to them. Don't call. Don't negotiate. Just fish and let me handle everything." We shook hands. The trap was armed. I requested my vacation the next day. Patricia's response took 3 hours. "Brian, now's really not the right time. We need you on the Q3 planning cycle." I pushed back politely, mentioned I hadn't taken vacation in years, that I'd earned it, that Project Titan was done and documented. She finally approved it, but I could read between the lines. She was annoyed. Good. Annoyed people make mistakes. The night before I left for Colorado, Andrew helped me pack my fishing gear in the garage. 2 weeks, huh? That's the longest vacation you've ever taken. First real one in 18 years. Must feel weird. It does. I was coiling up fly line, checking my reel. "Hey, about MIT, I know you're worried about the cost. Dad, we don't have to talk about 85K a year is a lot. They offered you 18K in aid, right?" "Yeah. So that leaves 67K. I can cover maybe 12K with work study and summer jobs, but that still leaves 55K per year you'd need to..." "I've got it handled." "How? I mean, I know you saved money, but that's 220K over 4 years. "Andrew." I put down the fishing rod and looked at him. "I promise you, it's handled. You're going to MIT. Full ride. You're not going to worry about money, about loans, about anything. Just focus on being a kid for 1 more year, then go be brilliant at college. Let me worry about the rest." He hugged me. My kid, almost as tall as me now, still hugging his old man. "Thanks, Dad. Love you, kid. Love you too. Catch a big one for me." I flew out to Colorado the next morning. Rented a cabin by a creek, unpacked my gear, and waited. I knew what was coming. They'd waited until I was on vacation because they were cowards. Fire someone while they're away, while they can't make a scene in the office, can't rally colleagues, can't do anything but absorb the blow in isolation. Day 1, nothing. I fished, caught a decent rainbow trout, made dinner, read a book on the deck, bourbon and mountain air. Day 2, nothing. More fishing. Hiked up to a ridge. Cell service was spotty, which was fine. I wasn't expecting anything yet. Day 3, Tuesday morning, 6:47 a.m. The email. I read it once, then again. Then I took that photo, forwarded it to Jack with, "It's active," and cast my line back into the creek. The water was cold, clear. You could see the rocks on the bottom, trout darting between them. Somewhere 200 miles away, Patricia and Linda were probably high-fiving each other, celebrating their brilliant cost-cutting move. They had no idea what they'd just triggered. My phone buzzed. Text from Jack. Confirmed received. Contract is enforceable. They have 10 days once formally notified. Want me to move? I looked out at the creek. A hawk circled overhead. The sun was burning off the morning mist. Not yet, I texted back. Let them celebrate first. Give it 2 days. Then drop the hammer. Cold, Jack replied. I like it. I poured more bourbon into my coffee and went back to fishing. Somewhere in a boardroom, they were about to have the worst week of their professional lives. But that could wait. Right now, I had a vacation to enjoy. Back at Vyerk headquarters, Patricia was having the time of her life. I know this because Paul Hendricks, a junior lawyer in their legal department, had been feeding Jack information for weeks. Paul was 29, fresh out of law school, and still had enough conscience left to be horrified by what the company was doing. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday, 2 days after they fired me. Patricia had prepared a whole presentation about workforce optimization and fiscal responsibility. She'd been rehearsing it all week, according to Paul. The star slide was about Project Titan and how they'd reallocated legacy overhead and achieved significant operational savings. Legacy overhead. That's what I was to them. 18 years of building their infrastructure, and I was overhead. The meeting room filled up around 2 p.m. Board members, investors, the whole C-suite. Patricia stood up there in her $2,000 suit, clicking through slides like she was announcing a cure for cancer. "We've successfully optimized our engineering department," she said, voice bright with confidence. "By eliminating redundant senior positions and reallocating those resources to agile-ready teams, we've achieved significant cost savings without impacting operational capacity." One of the slides showed a bar chart. Green bars going up, red bars going down, the kind of chart that makes investors smile and employees lose sleep. Linda Reeves, the CFO, jumped in with actual numbers. The Sullivan termination alone represents $920K in annual savings, salary plus benefits, over a 4-year projection. We've redirected that budget to retention bonuses for high-potential employees in our innovation division. High-potential employees. That's corporate speak for young people we can pay less and work harder. And innovation division? That was Sienna's department, Patricia's daughter. They'd literally taken my salary and given it to the CEO's kid. Richard Calhoun, one of the older board members, leaned forward. Sullivan? Wasn't he the engineer who salvaged Project Titan? I thought that system was critical. Patricia didn't miss a beat. The team effort salvaged Titan, Richard. We're moving past the individual contributor model toward collaborative frameworks. Brian's role represented legacy thinking that no longer aligned with our agile-first culture. Plus, Linda added, scrolling through her tablet, his compensation was significantly above market rate for his output level. We're seeing better ROI from our junior hires. I wasn't there, obviously. But Paul told Jack every word, and Jack told me. Sitting by that creek in Colorado, reading the summary on my phone, I had to laugh. Above market rate? I was $60K below market. But they'd convinced themselves of their own lie. The presentation continued. Q3 projections, innovation initiatives led by Sienna, the path to IPO. Everyone was nodding along, smiling. They'd trimmed the fat, gotten leaner, positioned themselves for growth. Patricia was practically glowing. That's when Paul spoke up. He wasn't supposed to be in that meeting, but he'd volunteered to take notes because he knew what was coming. "Excuse me, Ms. Morgan, I need to flag something about the Sullivan termination." The room went quiet. Patricia's smile froze. "Not now, Paul. We're presenting to the board. But the contract has a clause that might create liability exposure." I said, "Not now." Patricia's voice went ice cold. "If you can't handle basic meeting protocol, you can wait outside." Paul shut up. Later, he told Jack he felt physically sick, but he was a junior associate and Patricia was the CEO. What was he supposed to do? Stand up and argue? He'd be fired before he finished his sentence. The presentation wrapped up at 3 p.m., Handshakes all around, congratulations on a strong quarter, optimism about the future. Patricia and Linda walked out of that boardroom thinking they'd just pulled off a masterclass in corporate efficiency. They had no idea Cora Whitman was sitting in a conference room 3 floors down reading through termination files. Cora's 52, been cleaning up corporate messes for 20 years. Viark had hired her to do a routine compliance review before their audit, standard procedure before any company goes public. She's the kind of lawyer who reads every word of every document because she's seen what happens when you don't. She'd been going through termination files all week. Most were clean, standard severance agreements, proper documentation, all the boxes checked. But when she got to mine, something caught her eye. At first, everything looked normal. Clean paperwork, approved PTO, termination notice. But there was a footnote reference at the bottom of the termination letter. A tiny little superscript number that referenced contractual obligations per employment agreement, section 18.7c. Cora pulled my full contract from the system, scrolled to page 47, started reading. She read it once, blinked, read it again. Then she picked up her phone and called her associate. Get everyone from that board meeting back in the conference room, right now. Everyone? It's 3:15. Some people have already... I don't care if they're in the parking garage. Get them back. We have a problem. By 3:45 p.m., they were all back in the boardroom. Confused, annoyed, wondering why the compliance lawyer was interrupting their victory lap. Patricia walked in looking irritated, Linda right behind her checking her phone, probably already thinking about her afternoon meetings. Cora didn't waste time on pleasantries. She opened a folder, laid it on the conference table, and started reading in a flat, professional voice that somehow made every word sound like a death sentence. Clause 18.7c, Brian Sullivan employment contract, executed and signed 6 months ago. In the event of termination during approved and active PTO, without minimum 3 documented performance warnings, employee shall receive liquidated damages calculated as 82% of total gross compensation earned during tenure, payable within 10 business days. The room went silent. Not the polite kind of silent, the kind where everyone stops breathing. That can't be right, Patricia's voice came out thin. Legal vetted that contract. Legal rubber stamped it, Cora corrected, not looking up from the document. Nobody actually read page 47, but it's signed, dated, digitally logged with timestamp verification, and completely enforceable under state employment law. Linda leaned forward, face going pale. What's the damage amount? Cora did the math out loud. $220,000 annual salary times 18 years of tenure times 82%. That's $3,243,600. You could have heard a pin drop. Someone's pen rolled off the table and hit the floor. Nobody picked it up. $3 million? Linda's voice cracked. For firing one engineer? 3.2 M, Cora corrected. Plus mandatory restoration of his full severance package, all vested benefits, and stock options. I'd estimate total exposure around $5. Patricia grabbed the contract, scanning page 47 like it might change if she read it hard enough. This is extortion. He can't do this. We'll fight it. With what argument? Cora's voice stayed level. You signed it. Your CFO signed it. Your HR director signed it. It's a valid contract properly executed. And you triggered every single condition. He was on approved PTO. I have the approval email from you, Patricia. You terminated him without documented cause. There are 0 performance warnings in his file. 0. The clause is active. Richard Calhoun stood up slowly. He looked at Patricia, then at Linda, then at Naomi Walsh, the HR director who'd been sitting frozen in the corner. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. His voice was dangerously quiet. You terminated a senior engineer to save $920K over 4 years, and in doing so, you triggered a 5 years liability. That's a net loss of $4.08. Patricia opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Plus, Cora continued, flipping to the next page, there's a second provision. The same clause mandates a comprehensive SOX compliance audit of all executive appointments made within the previous 24 months. That audit is now mandatory and begins immediately. Patricia's face went from pale to gray. Sienna had been appointed Chief Innovation Officer 18 months ago, at $280K annually, with 0 relevant experience. And according to Paul's quiet investigation, the one he'd been doing on his own time because something felt wrong, Sienna had been approving payments to vendor accounts that didn't quite check out. "This is insane," Patricia said, voice shaking. "He planned this. He trapped us." "Yes," Cora replied. "He did. Very carefully. Very legally. And you walked right into it. Linda Reeves tried to salvage something. We can negotiate. Offer a settlement. Maybe $2 to make this go away quietly." "With what leverage?" Richard Calhoun cut her off. "We're the ones in breach. He holds all the cards." "Then we blame HR," Linda said, turning to Naomi. "This is your department. You were supposed to catch this." Naomi's face flushed red. "I processed what legal approved." "Linda, you signed this too. You were in the room." "I signed dozens of documents that day. I can't read every—" "That's the problem," Richard interrupted. He stood up, gathering his papers. "None of you read it, and now we're explaining to our investors why we just lost 4 numbers trying to save $900K. He looked at Patricia. "We'll be discussing your position at an emergency executive session tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Patricia tried to respond, but Richard was already walking out. 2 other board members followed him. The room emptied fast after that. Nobody wanted to be associated with the disaster. I heard about all of this Thursday evening. Jack called while I was cleaning my second trout of the day. "They know," he said. I could hear the smile in his voice. "External counsel found it this afternoon. Boardroom went nuclear." "How nuclear?" "CEOs facing termination. CFOs trying to blame everyone else. And the audit requirement kicked in. They're already finding irregularities with the daughter's vendor accounts." I didn't say anything for a minute. Just watched the sun setting over the mountains, turning everything gold and purple. Somewhere 200 miles away, Patricia's entire world was collapsing. And I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger. Just tired. "You still there?" Jack asked. "Yeah, I'm here. They'll try to negotiate. Probably call you directly. Don't take the calls. Let me handle everything. I'm not planning to." "Good. Oh, and Brian? That clause was a work of art. 25 years practicing law, I've never seen a trap that clean." After he hung up, I sat on the deck with my bourbon and watched the stars come out. My phone buzzed 3 times that night. Unknown numbers. I let them all go to voicemail. The last one was Patricia, her voice shaky and desperate. "Brian, this is Patricia Morgan. We need to talk about your termination. There's been a misunderstanding. Please call me back. We can work this out. I'm sure we can reach an arrangement that works for everyone." I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. The next week moved fast. Jack filed the formal demand letter on Friday. Viarch's lawyers responded within hours, offering $2 to settle and waive the audit requirement. Jack told them no. They came back Monday with $3. Jack didn't even respond. Tuesday morning, the audit team started going through Sienna's accounts. By Tuesday afternoon, they'd found the first shell company. Wednesday, they found 2 more. By Thursday, they'd traced $400K in fraudulent payments back to accounts Sienna controlled. The money had been laundered through fake vendor invoices for consulting services and innovation research that never happened. Linda Reeves had approved every single payment without verification. Whether she was complicit or just negligent didn't matter anymore. Her career was over either way. On day 7, exactly 10 business days after my termination, Viarch's board held an emergency session. Patricia was terminated as CEO, effective immediately. Linda was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Naomi Walsh was fired for gross negligence, and Sienna Morgan was facing criminal charges for embezzlement and wire fraud. That afternoon, 5 a.m. hit my bank account. The wire transfer notification popped up on my phone while I was fishing. I looked at it once, put the phone back in my pocket, and cast my line again. I flew home the next day. Andrew picked me up from the airport in my old truck. "So," he said as we drove, "Mom called. Said something crazy happened with your old company. Something like that. She said you're not going back?" "Nope." "Are we okay? Like, financially?" I looked at my son. He had his mother's eyes, but my stubborn streak. Smart enough to get into MIT, tough enough to offer to defer so I wouldn't stress about money. He deserved the truth. "We're more than okay. Your MIT tuition is covered. All 4 years. Housing, books, everything." His eyes went wide. "Seriously? But that's like $340K total. Covered. And I'm retiring early. Bought that cabin in Colorado we stayed at. Gonna do some consulting work if I feel like it, but mostly just fish, and finally finish restoring that '67 Mustang in the garage. Andrew was quiet for a minute, processing. What happened, Dad? I mean, they fired you, but now they made a mistake. I made sure they paid for it. Did you know they were going to fire you? I could have lied. Could have said it was luck or coincidence, but Andrew wasn't a kid anymore. Yeah, I knew. 6 months ago, I knew. They were going to do it no matter what. So I made sure when they did, there were consequences. He paused, searching for words. That's actually pretty smart, Dad. Don't tell your mother I taught you to be devious. Too late. I learned from watching you. We drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Andrew's phone buzzed. He looked at it and smiled. MIT housing lottery results. I got the dorm I wanted. Which one? McGregor. It's where all the engineering students... He stopped, turned to me. Wait, you're sure about the money? I don't want you to... Andrew. I put my hand on his shoulder. I spent 18 years building systems for people who saw me as overhead. I missed your baseball games, your robotics competitions, dinners, birthdays, all of it for a company that fired me via email while I was on vacation. But you know what? It was worth it. Because now you get to go to MIT and not worry about money. You get to just be a kid for one more year, then go be brilliant. That's all I ever wanted. He hugged me right there in the truck, stopped at a red light. Thanks, Dad, for everything. When we got home, I made us dinner, steaks on the grill, the way I used to before the 72-hour week started. We ate on the back porch, talked about his robotics team, his classes, his plans for college. Normal stuff, the kind of stuff I'd missed for years. Later that night, after Andrew went to bed, I sat in the garage with the Mustang, opened a beer, looked at the engine I'd been meaning to rebuild for 5 years. I finally had time. My phone buzzed. Email from Jack. Subject, final tally. The audit had found $437K in embezzlement. Sienna was officially charged. Linda Reeves had been terminated for negligence. Patricia was out, replaced by an interim CEO. The company's IPO plans were on hold indefinitely, and Viarc's stock had dropped 18% on the news. I read it once, then deleted it. That part of my life was over. I'm 50 years old. I spent 18 years building systems for people who saw me as a line item to be eliminated. But I've got my son heading to MIT, a cabin in Colorado waiting for me, and enough money to retire with dignity. And somewhere in a boardroom I'll never see again, they're learning that you can't treat people like overhead without consequences. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting mad, it's getting even, quietly, legally, and so thoroughly that they never see it coming until it's too late. I cracked open another beer and got to work on that engine. I had time now, all the time in the world.